That it was justifying for Clare to win because Cork were relying on old players coming back from retirement. Also, they brought in a player from Carlow who'd never played in his life with Cork before. So what are your thoughts about that? She says they should have used Cork minors and underage players coming through.
Well, I think that may be the case now because this team, the Cork team, had several senior players. But the selectors are there. They've got all the talent in the county to look at, and they went with experience. And that experience won them All-Irelands in the recent past. It's very difficult for managers and coaches who have taken a team somewhere and have been with that side for a number of years, actually to discard those players is very, very difficult. And as such, I think that's what Cork have done. They've stuck with tested players, and maybe they've paid the price for it. I'm not sure.
So perhaps there's room for a rethink now. And now look, Carroll of County Tipperary rang about helmets. We've discussed this before, but he noted that there was only 5 players in that match yesterday wearing helmets. Surely, he says, in the interest of safety, everybody should be wearing helmets. Now, you've talked about this before.
Yes, I think a number of the players took their helmets off during the game, and maybe it was the conditions, the wet conditions or whatever, they had to discard them. But we've said this before, it seems to be that there are needless injuries. I've seen Dennis Walsh actually in the match picking up a needless head injury. And these things are purely accidental. I don't think there's a lot of maliciousness in the attempts to play the ball and another player gets hurt. And so to cut out those sort of petty instances, it would be better if people wore helmets. But at the same time, people have a choice. And hurling is a very quick game and it needs a lot of concentration. And some players are put off by wearing headgear, and it just affects their game and they can't get used to them. So they're adult men playing a game, and they have the choice whether or not to wear headgear.
Okay. On another topic altogether, Pat Lambert from Wexford rang in last night to say that I was afraid to comment about referees, no matter how bad the decision was made, that we never make derogatory remarks about referees. There seems to be no discipline on referees. First of all, we do comment constantly about referees, and it's not our place here on the Sunday game to actually discipline referees. But on another point, Kieran, along those lines, Paddy Cronin from County Kilkenny said, why was there a Leinster referee refereeing the match between Cork and Clare, and was there a Munster referee in the game between Kilkenny and Offaly? It's part of the taking of referees from one province to another, and this is a good thing, I think.
I think it is. When I was playing for Antrim, the last 2 Ulster finals that we played in, we had Dick Murphy and Paddy Delaney in the 2 matches. And I think there seems to be a healthy respect from the players' point of view for outside referees, people that they're not familiar with. And it reinforces the respect and the authoritarianism of the referee in games. And as well as that, people from within the province can say, well, look, it wasn't the Kilkenny guy who refereed that match, and he's always against Offaly, he's always against our county, he never gives us a chance.
So it wasn't the vested interest, more or less.
Yeah, and it takes all that out of it, and it leaves the referee to be less a target of criticism, and you can concentrate purely maybe on his performance or on the player's performance, and it takes that sort of uncertainty out of it, I think.
One final one for you, Kieran, and this is about the price of matches. Now, we constantly get a lot of calls about this. Larry Gillivan of Moat rang last night, John Healy from County Kildare, but we get a lot of phone calls, people complaining that the prices of matches are too high. We're lucky enough, we don't have to pay going into matches, but a lot of people have got to spend good money on those games.
I think so. I think that's a valid point, and I think if the GAA became more transparent in their ticket cost, I think people would like to see the structure of the ticket being broken down, so that they're told the selling price, they're told the cost of the ticket based on the projected sales to cover that cost. And then if you break down those costs per ticket, and say to people it's £2 for maintenance of the pitch or hire of the pitch, it's another £1 for security, etc., etc. Build the cost up and show what element of profit there is in the cost of that ticket. And then people would be able to say, well, at least we're being told, we have a choice and we know exactly what it costs. And maybe that's something the GAA should go towards, showing people maybe once every 6 months or something, saying to them, well, look, this is the typical cost of a ticket during the championship, and this is the typical price we charged it, and the difference between the two was the profit that we needed to make to generate funds for the GAA. But actually tell them that the cost was for maintenance of the ground, for hire of the ground, for security, for printing, etc., etc.
Sounds like a good idea. Kieran Barr, thank you very much again for joining us.